we have an addendum proposed for 10:15 a.m. County Council Administration. Its item would be item 12A, discussion and possible action approving an agreement to purchase real property for the construction of a new adult correctional facility. County Council and Administration, I believe Jim Jones has a comment on this.
Mr. Chair, we're not quite ready to take this to the board, so I'm going to ask that it be put over for 1 week to next Tuesday.
Any objections? Nope. Okay, done.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Item 13, the study session on staffing, that'll be withdrawn this week.
Let's see.
Item 13, yeah.
So that is our 10:30 study session on Sheriff's Department staffing analysis and strategic plan. Is there a proposed rescheduling of that?
Not at this time, sir, no.
Okay. Any objection to that?
Jim's continuance on?
Okay, that will be continued to a date to be determined. We do have the following results of closed sessions held at the meeting of February 26, 2008. Closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9B1, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation, one case. County Council, that was canceled. Item 18, closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, conference with labor negotiators, county representatives, CAO, and Assistant CAO, Director of Human Resources and Risk Management, SEIU, regarding miscellaneous employees, human resources, board action, canceled. Number 19, closed session, conference with real property negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8, properties, APNs as follows: 44-011-050, 44-011-049, 44-011-051, and 44-011-052. Agency negotiator Brent Harrington, or alternate to be determined. Negotiating parties Ryan Voorhees, Greg Opinski. Under negotiation, instruction to negotiator regarding potential purchase, price, financing options. County Council Administration with nothing to report. The closed session was held on February 20th, 2008 at the Greenhorn Creek Fireside Room pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, public employee appointment or employment, resulting in no action taken. And from that announcement, I'd like to make just one comment to administration. I know that this is the term of art, miscellaneous employees, but I have had a little bit of feedback from people who don't feel that their role in this county is in any way miscellaneous, and I'm hoping that we might change that sometime in the near future to general unit, which would be more appropriate and descriptive. Moving on, we have the consent agenda. These are items that are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They'll be acted upon the board at one time without discussion. However, anybody in this room can take an item off of this. Is there anybody who wishes to do so on the board? Staff? Any member of the public? Hearing no removals,
I'll move the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. We now will take a 3-minute recess to get to public comments, which is the next item up.
Madeline, could you adjourn?
Oops. Actually, we'll reconstitute ourselves as a board, and then we'll have items for the public.
Get it over with.
Director Dean.
Bob Dean, Calaveras County Water District Director. I just want to bring you an update on the status of the Sandy Gulch Parks proposal, because back in January, I asked for an extra 60 days so that we could complete all the work that had to be done so we could make application for the Prop 40 money. Thus far, we've kind of divvied up our roles. County and CCWD got together to determine who was going to do what. And CCWD agreed to do the appraisal, and we've hired an appraiser, a man named Mike Wright, who, interestingly enough, had done the original appraisal for Sandy Gulch Park and has a lot of experience with raw land. And he's going to be doing a site inspection this month, and he'll have a completed appraisal in April. And at this point in time, there's some discussion about determining what sort of an encroachment we're going to have at the park site. CCWD just recently surplused another 5 acres to address the potential issues there. So we have at least 3 different areas where there could be an encroachment for access to the park. And it's just a matter now of getting the survey in place. As you know, the good bad side of the story is we had some terrible weather which precluded any possible appraisal in the last couple of months. Of course, the good side being that we're getting a lot of water, and that's the important part. So anyhow, things are moving along quite well, and I honestly think that probably if we have some sort of a verbal, non-binding appraisal after the site visit, and while it's being written up, we could probably begin the paperwork, and hopefully by the end of April have this thing submitted to the state for funding. So that's what the status is right now.
Bob,
Which makes me feel real good.
as the board may recall, I believe we extended time on this for, did you say 60 days?
It was 60 days, and we're at that right now.
It looks like this is very close, and I wanted to check with the board and make sure that if, due to the weather delays, if this goes out another few days or even a week or two, that people would still see the good faith approach and keep this project in a live state. Would there be any objection to that flexibility?
Not at all.
All right.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Go ahead. Thanks a lot, Bob.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Mickey Williamson. I'm from Murphy's, or actually sort of the brush between Angels Camp and Murphy's. I'm here this morning, actually, although I'm not a stranger here, but to introduce myself in my relatively new official capacity, and at the same time to reintroduce you to the Community Action Project and the Calaveras Planning Coalition. Maybe you never even got a formal introduction to them anyway. The Community Action Project is a community-based, community-focused group whose mission is to promote citizen participation in local government. And it fulfills that mission by supporting and encouraging individuals and groups to participate in our local process and to provide good public education about issues of importance. CAP particularly feels that the current general plan update process is one of the main vehicles at this time for citizens to translate their visions into policy, and therefore supports full citizen participation in the general plan update process and the community planning process. The Planning Coalition is a project of CAP. It was when CAP first came into being, and they looked to how they were going to support citizens in participating in local government. They went out and found that they already were, that there were many community organizations already actively engaged in the planning process in their communities. And so the natural thing to do, the most logical thing to do, was to bring them together into a coalition for mutual support and education. And the coalition then was formed in early 2006, and it's been meeting regularly ever since. The group is totally open and welcoming of new member groups. It has only 2 requirements for membership. One is agreement in principle with 11 land use principles that the coalition has adopted. And the second is that when groups join, they have to bring cookies to their first meeting. The groups join the coalition for the advantages and the support that it offers. Members have had workshops on the California Environmental Quality Act process, on the general plan process, and have attended many regional and state conferences and workshops. Both CAP and the coalition know that growth is inevitable, and that it can be a real asset to our county. We are for thoughtful, responsible, and planned growth. We're for growth that protects the historic character of our communities, that preserves our spectacular natural resources, which I was so aware of on the drive over here this morning, and that ensures a healthy future for all the citizens of Calaveras County well into the future. The people who serve on the CAP board and who are members of the coalition are citizens. We are the public. We are business people and homemakers and retired folks. We are parents and grandparents, Republicans and Democrats, conservatives and liberals. We live next door. We meet you in the aisles of our local markets. We are from Wallace, Burson, Valley Springs, Paloma, Glencoe, Railroad Flat, Mokelumne Hill, San Andreas, Murphys, Arnold. And we want to, in our advocacy for citizen participation and for wise planning, we want to work with the Board of Supervisors and the Community Development Agency. You often see many of us here, see our faces, and I just want to remind you that those of us that you see here are really just the tip of the iceberg. All of the groups that belong to the Planning Coalition have email lists, and many have websites. I think it was in 2007 that the myvalleysprings.com website alone had over 11,000 individual contacts. So we can see that people are vitally interested in their community and in the planning process, and we aim to provide them with clear and factual information. Personally, this group of people that I work with are so inspiring. I often sort of think that they know a lot more than I do, that I am a novice in the planning realm. But then I remember that they all are. They are all novices who just looked around and saw what was happening and began to educate themselves. And they are totally inspiring and tireless and committed to what they're doing. So I'm here to say that I assure you we are not going away, that we will be relentless and persistent in pursuit of wise planning and good public participation. And in words that I think Supervisor Claudino once said, we will hold your feet to the fire. And we will do this simply because we, like you, care about the future of Calaveras County. So I thank you for your time, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak. And I did provide copies for you of roughly what I said, along with some other information about the coalition, including our land use principles and our current member group list. And I encourage you to think about our land use principles. You all have mentioned the Ahwahnee principles as perhaps guides for our county's growth. These principles, which are not actually original to us, we adopted them, and they came to us from other groups in Calaveras and Amador counties. I think maybe even actually are more simple and straightforward and easy for people to get a handle on. So you might want to think about those as guidelines for our general plan. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any. Otherwise, I thank you for your time.
Actually, there is a question. Marita?
Mickey, I'm not really clear why you need two groups. I mean,
Sure.
Because you talked about translating vision into policy for CAP, and yet you're doing planning. There seems to be an overlap, and for me, it's confusing.
At the moment, I would say the overlap is almost total. But that's because when CAP first was formed, they things weren't, the general plan process hadn't come into being yet. We didn't know that was going to be happening. And so the idea was to encourage local groups in whatever local issues that they faced. But when it became clear that the general plan process was going to happen, it seemed like this was the place really to focus our efforts for right now. And so that's why the Planning Coalition came into being really around that same time to coordinate that. So at the moment, CAP, who came first and then started the coalition, is really working toward and overseeing the things that the coalition is doing. In the future, that may not be so. In the future, it may be that a group off here is working on something entirely different, and a group off here is working on something else, and CAP still would be the oversight for all of that. So that's why I think it's probably confusing. Does that help, Annie?
Yeah, no, but,
Yeah.
yeah, truthfully, okay.
You know, in some ways, for the time being, you know, you can almost consider us the same thing, although we are different. CAP is a board. It's a group of people that oversees the Planning Coalition, which is a coalition of groups.
Good. Just on behalf of the board, could you tell Colleen our thoughts are with her?
Sure will.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes, that's from all of us.
I will do that.
Other items from the public?
Joe Kelly, Oak Valley Estates. Been reading newspaper accounts of deficits, potential bankruptcies, and also salary surveys for Calaveras County. I had some concerns over that, some questions actually, and concerns. What are the parameters of Calaveras County's salary surveys? If parameters exist, do they include the physical size, the population, the economic conditions, meaning revenues, the base salary, employee received benefits, including county contributions to the employee's health insurance, workers' compensation insurance, employee's pension, sick leave, paid holidays, vacations, and any promised retirement health care coverage of the SEIU agreed upon counties of Amador, Tuolumne, Yuba, San Benito, and Yolo. Do the salary surveys include the private business sector for a comparison of the previously mentioned survey parameters? During these salary surveys, is administrative analyst input involved for the potential of budget deficit and government bankruptcy? Why aren't these surveys labeled prevailing wage surveys? Isn't prevailing wage the expected outcome? In the early 90s, a Central Coast grand jury reported prevailing wage surveys allowed a ratcheting up of county employment benefits by the surveying counties. In other words, one year one county would be it, the next year the other county would survey the same ones or their pick. This allowed this to happen continuously rather than looking at the concept of the individual's county's needs and abilities. This year, that particular county has a reported $20 million deficit to deal with, and partially it's based on retirement costs, future costs now and future costs, what they're looking at. Is Calaveras County's retirement fund fully funded? Are the Calaveras County employee and retired employee health care benefit funds fully funded? This is something we're seeing in the state of California that are not funded. And now it's been recommended by their analysts that they fund these now on an annual basis with $1.2 million a year in it to be sure that they have monies there. A projection of state, counties, cities, and school districts' cumulative health benefit liability obligation for retirees is $118 billion over the next 30 years. In closing, how soon should taxpayers expect a full disclosure of Calaveras County's economic condition? I thank you.
Those were some pretty weighty questions. I would like to make sure that you can get answers to those. Our HR director is responsible for doing the surveys, and I'm sure that she would have answers for those. That's Francine Osborne. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if the CAO would like to direct you in any other directions for that, but the financial condition of the county, I believe, has some clear dates and benchmarks.
Yes. In the largest sense, Calaveras County doesn't offer the employee medical, the retiree medical insurance that has gotten so many other entities, whether cities or counties, into deep financial trouble. We are working now on compliance with GASB 45, which is the standard reporting requirement for obligations under post-employment benefits, which would cover retiree medical or any other in lieu payments that are made. And I would say that Calaveras County, without having all the numbers at hand, we're in very good shape with respect to that. The analyst and the county administrator's office reports to the Board of Supervisors at mid-year on the county's financial condition and with our projections for the next couple of years, the next few months to the end of the current fiscal year. We did that last week. The county is facing the same financial crunch that other counties and cities are facing with respect to revenues and expenses. There's copies of that report available. I can certainly, if you stop by my office after the board meeting, I'll get you that. We'll have a more in-depth report at third quarter that provides that kind of information with a lot tighter focus on where we're going to be at the end of fiscal year 07-08. I'm a new guy in town, but I would say that we're pretty prudent here in Calaveras County, and we've learned a lot from what other municipalities have done, and we've taken some good lessons on what not to do. Your concerns are well placed given the current climate, but I do think that we've taken care of many of the issues that you're raising. I'd be happy to visit with you later on to discuss it.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Joe. Are there any other members of the public who wish to address the board?
I would. Good morning. I'm Lisa Reynolds with the Calaveras Visitors Bureau. And I just wanted to give you a quick update on some of the major projects that we're working on right now. One of our big things that we're really, has been in development for a while, but we're getting more into it as I have a little bit more help at the moment, is our agritourism program in the county. We have not had a real comprehensive farm trails map, a real comprehensive idea of where we can send people, families, tour buses to go experience farm life. And this is a huge growing sector of tourism throughout the world, actually, where people want to come and have these farm experiences. And we have so much opportunity for that here. So we are currently have developed and have sent out a survey to Calaveras Grown members, to Cattlemen's Association, to the Farm Bureau, getting any information we can to put together a really great program that we can offer to our visitors year-round here in Calaveras County. And in addition to that kind of goes along with that, we're rolling out a new ad campaign. We are keeping our current Go campaign. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's in Via and Sunset magazines on a regular basis. And it directs people to our website, which is gocalaveras.com. So it all ties in. And we use the Go theme for a lot. But in tying in with agritourism, we wanted to hit a closer market, especially with gas prices the way they are going and the economy. We have so many people really close to us in the Valley area, Sacramento, as well, that we can target. And so we are doing a new campaign locally called Calaveras So Close You Can Taste It. And it will have a map on it indicating exactly where we are, how many hours it is from whichever market we are targeting at that time. So people know it's we're an hour and a half from Sacramento. And so we're really excited about that campaign that we're working on and hope to have those ads out in April. We also continue to work very closely with the Gold Country Visitors Association, which, as I've explained in the past as well, is a regional marketing group that's designated by California, the state of California. And what they do is they match any money that we put out in marketing as an organization. The state matches it with $30,000. So we're able to really, with the cooperation of all the counties involved in our regional group and the monies from the state, we're able to do a lot of marketing and make our dollars go really far and promote our region, which is really wonderful. The California Travel and Tourism Commission also just rolled out a campaign in New York in late January called California, the Land of Wine and Food. And it's not food and wine because they had some major sponsors in the wine industry, so they wanted wine to be first and then food. We plan on we're kind of watching that campaign to see how it goes, but we really want to be a big part of that as well. So in our next fiscal year budget, we are looking at putting some significant amount of marketing dollars towards that campaign and being a part of that with them. Of course, the Film Commission is also something that we continue to work on and continue to try and draw more people here. We do have Mythbusters coming back, and that will be, I believe, their 4th time here. So we've got them. We just need to get more people up here, but we continue to get inquiries, and it is a lot of work. You pretty much drop what you're doing to get the photos they want, the locations they want, and then they may or may not even respond to the photos you send them, but we do what we can with that. Locally, we are going to be starting our Discover Calaveras events again, and Marita was hopefully a big fan of those. She attended every one this last year that we had, and we're going to be doing them with a focus, and this time it's going to be Discover Calaveras, bed and breakfast, and historic hotels. So we'll be touring those areas and getting some really great history along the way. And those events are designed really to get people to see what's right here in our county and to get them to be ambassadors for Calaveras County as well. One of the really neat things that I'm seeing in our county is the addition of many new events as well. And the Sierra Century Ride is a really great example of an event. Last year was the first year we had it, and they're bringing it back again on June 7th. So it's on 6, 7, 8 this year. And it just brings thousands of people to our area. And a lot of them from last year, what we could tell, it was their first time here. And many with the comment that they want to come back, and not just for a bike ride, but to come and explore our area. Valley Springs has a new event, the Train Times, focusing on the history of the railroad in our area. And the Calaveras Wine Grape Alliance has the Calaveras Wine Grape and Gourmet. So these are just some of the events that are happening and that we get to promote and that we really see people being drawn into. On another note, we see that the transient occupancy tax, aka bed tax, hotel tax, continues to increase by about 4.5% every year consistently for the last several years. And we just really want to thank the Board of Supervisors and the county for continuing to invest a portion of those dollars into the Visitors Bureau so that we can continue the work that we're doing and continue to increase those dollars coming into our area. It continues to be a very vital sector of our economy, tourism does, and we just appreciate your continued support as well. Are there any questions?
Just a comment from me. In all the gloom of the mid-year report, economics that was just referred to, the one bright part of it was that people continue to visit this county in increasing numbers. You were accurate in saying we're up. Every other indicator, every other piece of revenue virtually was in a different mode. So your work is actually paying off, and we're grateful for that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Lisa, did you get any reports that we discussed the possibility of renewing our efforts to put the transient occupancy tax back on the ballot?
Yes. Okay. Yes. I know that is something that is on the table again. I've heard discussions among various groups about wanting to take some efforts to look at that again.
Okay. It's also been suggested that we try to find a different describer or a different,
yes.
Call it something other than transient. Because
I think that is a very good idea. Yeah. And a lot of other counties, when they've gone for that, have called it a bed tax or hotel tax even is probably more accurate.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Good deal.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks for your efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there other items and comments from the public?
Do I count as the public?
If you want to be.
Stephanie Moreno, Director of Community Development. Good morning. I just wanted to address a question that was raised at last week's board meeting when I wasn't here on an unrelated item, and it was to do with plan check times, I understand. And I just wanted to address that. There's been a lot of rumors floating about that, and I think it's important to let the board know what's really happening. First of all, I want to let you know what we define as a plan check time, and that is the amount of time it takes from when the permit is accepted at the counter until the first contact is made, letter back out to the customer, or approved plans are ready to be picked up. It does not include the amount of time that may be needed if the customer has failed to provide everything or if there are red lines on the plan check. That's an additional amount of time that they have to respond. But right now our plan check times are at 2 to 4 weeks for both residential and commercial. We are right now working on plans that have been received in February, and we are getting those out very quickly. We also are seeing more activity at the front counter. We have people, many people calling in and asking about remodeling permits. We have taken in some new residential construction, so we are seeing activity at the permit counter. We're hoping that we will have increased activity as the weather gets better. We are also getting a lot more calls for building inspections on existing plans out there. So our staff is keeping busier at this time than they were even just a few weeks ago. So I just wanted to address that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Last call for items from the public. All right. Hearing none, we will move to agenda item number 5, the discussion and possible action regarding the adoption of an ordinance adopting and approving changes consistent with the new contract with the Service Employees International Union for elected officials.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. We'll move to item number 6, which is essentially the same ordinance except specific to the Board of Supervisors. Is there any...
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
A motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. We now move to item number 7, discussion and possible action regarding a resolution authorizing a joint use agreement between Calaveras County and the Jenny Lind Veterans Memorial District. This comes from our administration.
This is a agreement pursuant to Prop 40 funds. There are a couple of typos that I would like to address in the agreement, which we'll follow up on. If you look in the agreement, actually item 4, county agrees to make available to the district a NUM should be sum equal to but not exceeding $290,000. The other questions that have arisen with respect to the use of lights at the park and the operating hours until 11 p.m., discussed it with staff, and we've been advised that it is sufficiently removed from neighboring houses that the lights should not provide a significant issue for use of the park. Also, that the district's reservation of the right to use the facilities is not anticipated to present a significant obstacle to general enjoyment of the park itself. So those are some issues that were raised, and I'm happy to be able to respond to those. So we'll take care of the typo, and if there's any questions about the other points, I'll be happy to field them.
Any questions from the board?
Yes.
Bill?
Well, I'm not sure I understand what the third paragraph under item number 5 says. The one that addresses repayment by the district to the county in the event that construction within a reasonable period of time following payment. I'm just not understanding exactly what that says.
If we fronted the money for the district to complete the project and they fail to meet their deadlines in a reasonable amount of time, they need to repay us. They need to reimburse us.
And does that money come back into the Prop 40 basket of money?
Yeah, so it would be available for other Prop 40 projects, but hopefully we won't.
And is this upon completion, or are these payments metered out at levels of completion, or have we got that far yet?
I don't think we've gotten that far yet, but my interpretation is that it would be a pay-as-you-go. As costs are incurred, legitimate costs are incurred, invoices would be submitted to the county rather than waiting for the whole project and doing one lump sum.
so we have specific oversight, so we don't get caught. And lastly, for me, item number 13, after the 20-year period, then the agreement is no longer in effect, then the district will have complete control and the county will not have any involvement. Is that what that means?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Public, staff? Do I hear a motion?
I'll make this motion for this resolution.
Second.
Motion seconded. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. We now move to item number 8. This is a discussion and possible action regarding a resolution authorizing application for a local adult detention facility, Assembly Bill 900 construction grant. This brings the sheriff to the podium.
Good morning. Dennis Downham, Sheriff. We want to pass out the resolution and the first 6 pages of our grant application. And I need to inform you that all of this is being, as we speak, and over the next day, is undergoing technical review by the Corrections Standards Authority. We would like to pass this out to the board members and then ask that this be put over until next week. If anything comes up in the technical review that we have to change, we don't want to have to scramble back to the board. And over the course of this week, I would encourage board members, when you review this, if you have any questions that we can answer, and certainly if we get any information from Corrections Standards Authority that's not here or something in this is incorrect, we will inform you immediately. But we believe that it's important that we have this review completed, and we will, if you will move it to next week, we'll be good to go.
All right. I know I can speak for myself. I'm glad to get the information up front and have a week to take a look at it. That's
quite frankly, we didn't get the numbers until very late last night.
What are we shooting for as the number of beds? I'm just looking at the cover here, and it has number of beds gained 215. Is it 240, 215? Is it 160 that the state is saying?
Actually, Tom, what we did, we saw a fairly good opportunity at a fairly minimal cost to triple bunk the dormitory beds that will actually move it out to 280.
280?
But those are beds.
Right.
Everything over 160 is ours.
Okay. The dormitory beds are that's the cheap end of the spectrum here.
Yes.
all right. Is there any board discussion on this?
Okay, we get something to read.
I have no objection to the request.
Please, we really, when we come back next Monday, we hope to have in that time answered any questions anybody may have.
We won't be here.
We'll find the person.
We won't be here Monday, Dennis.
Or Tuesday, for sure. I've been here too long, I guess.
I'll be here Monday, Dennis. Talk to me.
Tom actually still sometimes comes on Monday.
I do too, actually. I see you here. All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Do we need to take formal measure to reschedule that, or it's just automatic?
We'll automatically reschedule.
Just give the instruction to do so.
All right. Well, we give that instruction now.
Yeah.
At this point, we are with the recess for half an hour. This is actually a first on my watch. We haven't actually finished the agenda earlier than it's time since January, and it's really kind of a great moment. So you got half an hour before we have the next agenda point, which will be a review of correspondence reports and various matters of concern. So enjoy all the board back into session. And we are at the 10:15 item under Board Matters, review of correspondence, reports, and various matters of concern. Let's start with Tom today.
Oh, excuse me. I have a COG meeting on Wednesday.
No excuse for you.
And I'll be attending a city council meeting tonight. And the city is putting the issue of CCWD being on the, having a permanent seat on LAFCO back on the agenda, apparently at the request of Councilman Raggio. There is some anticipation that the city will vote to oppose the seating or giving a permanent seat to CCWD. Apparently the city is upset over some issue concerning water rights on UPA. And so I guess that's their way of trying to leverage CCWD. I don't think it has anything to do with LAFCO. It certainly has nothing to do with CCWD helping the other smaller independent water and sewer districts in the county. But as a consequence of the city's potential action, Senator Cox has, we were going to be testifying tomorrow in Sacramento, and Senator Cox has pulled the item from the local government committee agenda, and it's being rescheduled for early April. So we'll kind of see where the city goes with it. Tonight, I hope the city will reaffirm their support, because I think it's absolutely critical for the benefit of the county to have CCWD with a seat on LAFCO if we're going to address a lot of these sewer and water issues. I don't think it's appropriate to bring in outside issues and try to use that as basically a leverage point, but that's apparently what's happening. So that completes my comments.
Thank you. Russ?
You're going to go there and here, huh?
Yep, I'm mixing it up today.
All right, I'm not...
Far right to the far left.
Then I guess it's my turn.
In that case, I'm going to have to rearrange the board entirely.
Marita's a lot further left than I am. Okay, tomorrow I'm going to be attending the Central Sierra Planning Council and the Central Sierra Economic Development Committee meeting, which, just as a reminder, we have our financial contribution or financial participation in that group is still pending. We were going to study that. But anyway, we're meeting tomorrow in Angels Camp. And then there's I see on the schedule here it says Mountain County Water Resources. I think that is not true. That's a meeting that has been rescheduled till April. So that's all I have this week. Thank you.
Marita?
I have Ebbets Pass Property Owners Council. I have the COG. I have the Mental Health Board in Avery. On Thursday, there is an Arts Council opening on Saturday if the board can attend. It's for the students of Calaveras. Also, we received a letter from Common Ground. I found it very disturbing. That if we want to continue to have hot meals, not that we won't have the meals, hot meals in San Andreas, Angels, and Murphy's, we're going to have to ante up another $15,000. We've already done that before. I had told Common Ground in an Area 12 meeting that they'll have to come to the board for budget requests at budget time. And then we get this letter, and then they're going to be asking for $40,000 in 0809, possibly doing the waiting list, which the board, not only this board, but the other counties have tried to avoid having waiting lists. I just thought I'd put it out. I'm a little annoyed at Common Ground for throwing this on us. I'm the board's representative on Area 12. I didn't know anything about it till we got the letter. Did discuss this generically at our board meeting, and then we got this, and I'm not sure how my colleagues would like to handle this. I feel like the seniors are being used as to blackmail the board on something that the board has taken a very strong stand on in the past. And I don't think this is the way we want to treat our seniors, but I also don't think this is the way we want to have the board be treated in terms of funding this project, funding the services that Common Ground really does provide quite well for the residents of Calaveras. So maybe, I don't know if we want to discuss it. I mean, put this on an agenda to discuss it.
Why don't we take some immediate board feedback on that? How would you like to approach this topic?
I have a question first,
Bill?
Steve. So, Rita, if I'm understanding that letter, I saw a copy of it myself, they want $15,000 in addition to the $15,000 we've given them
Correct.
to complete this year's program.
Correct.
And anticipating a request for $40,000 next year.
Correct.
This is for the same level of service that they've been providing.
That's how I read it. Correct. On the home delivered and the congregate. Yes.
Other comments?
Restaurant.
I got a couple. Senior meals program is real important to a lot of folks, and there are several reasons for that. One is nutrition, obviously, and there are people who are isolated, and having the Meals on Wheels program and other things actually get people the sustenance they need to survive. There's also the congregate meal program where some restaurants are subsidized for providing senior meals at certain times, become one of the great social events in some communities where seniors get together and do break out of some of the isolation that rural communities sometimes visit upon seniors, particularly when when a spouse passes away. So I see this as a vital program, and I also understand the costs are going up. The delivery, the gas alone has increased their costs, and that food prices are going up, and that's been a problem for the nonprofits to make their ends meet. That said, we have budget processes that sometimes all of our partners don't quite get, and they're just, the need comes up, and
Steve, in this case, they get it.
They get it.
I'm
Well,
not making, they get it.
In any event, the issue is profound enough that I would suggest that we take it from this report and put it on an agenda so we can actually bring Common Ground in, discuss the matter, and see what we can do. There's one last piece of this, which is that we have other senior meals programs. For instance, right across the street, we have a very lively senior center that has done wonders with a small budget. There was a split or some kind of dispute that happened years ago that separated that program from Area 12 and Common Ground, but I have for some time felt that there might be a moment where we could pull some things back together. So that seems, I understand that it hasn't succeeded just yet. But all of that wraps into what I think should be a good discussion on senior meals in general and what the best way to deliver them would be. So if people are all right, I'd like to take a quick poll and see if people are prepared to discuss this in, say, 2 weeks out. Is that acceptable? Mm-hmm. Marita, would that?
You're talking study
Well, I guess I'd like it agendized, Tom.
For
my
action?
thought is for possible action.
All right.
Because it's not just congregate meals and restroom meals, it's the shore program. Also, hot meals are only delivered in 3 locations. They're not delivered in the rest of the county. They're all delivered, maybe, that's acceptable. Then if we deliver hot meals only in San Andreas, why aren't we doing it in Copper and in Arnold? there's other places in the county
Well,
that also...
last I checked, railroad has been reduced to people dropping off some frozen
That's
dinners.
what they do, and the only place they do hot meals is San Andreas, Murphy's, and Angels.
Well-
But they do deliver meals in the rest of the county.
One of the problems with frozen dinners for a number of the seniors in railroad is that some people are without electricity, and of course, for frozen dinner without the ability to
Then,
heat it.
I mean, that's okay,
somewhat
then we would
problematic.
say, we're going to have to ante up even more money.
All right.
I'm not saying yes or no.
Just a good discussion to
I
have.
think we need, and Tom, and the reason I want it is that if we want to give them more money, then it takes a 4/5 vote, and we could take action that day.
So
If we so choose. A study session or just
Well, why don't
a
we try
potential action
something?
item?
Why don't we try something new, which is that when we need to get some information, we will agendize it and we will allow the possibility of action. So we'll have a study portion of it and a public comment piece of it, and followed by the potential for the board to take action.
That's still
or
an
not.
action item.
It's
I mean,
agendized as
just
an
like
action
what
item,
we
but
do.
has a study aspect to it. Is that an acceptable format?
No, it's the same as what we do now. All agenda items are that way, so I don't care. I mean, it doesn't matter. All items are open for discussion from the public to learn about the issues, and then the board either votes or does not vote. So I don't care what you want to call it. I just feel like we should set it up as potential action.
All right. No, any
just-
objections to that?
That's fine.
All right. So it will be on the 18th, scheduled for the meeting on the 18th. All right?
And could you ask Common Ground, if they could come and maybe have one or have a board member with them?
Do we also want to bring in anybody from Area 12 that is part of the...
That's a good idea. And possibly Linda, and possibly a member from Area 12.
There's
And
also a
let Linda
commission.
Zach make that decision. She's the director.
There's also a commission on aging that may wish to weigh in, and perhaps even across the street, the senior center might have something to say about this.
Any chance they could bring a hot lunch?
$6?
Dream on, Russ.
I'm going to suggest that you check with the admin and the clerk to see about the timing of the 18th as opposed to the 25th. We have Board of Equalization and a couple of other things going on that day. So if it's okay, maybe the flexibility there.
Yes.
Okay.
The first available.
All right. First, let's make it the 25th. I think you're right. We don't want to interfere with the Board of Equalization and get
Heavens, no.
scheduling problems.
The wrath of Khan.
25th, okay? Done. All right, Marita, is there any further
fine.
report?
I have nothing to report.
I've got a couple of things to report. Today I have the Mental Health Board meeting at 4 at the clubhouse in San Andreas. First 5 commission meeting, 9:30 to noon on Friday in San Andreas. I will also be attending the agricultural dispute resolution training at the Sequoia Room. It starts at 10:30, so I won't be there right on time, but after the first 5 commission meeting, I'll be there, and I'm going to the benefit for Senior Center at the Metropolitan that evening. And that's it, except that I've got a couple of questions about scheduling for the administration. We have, I believe, 3 board members have spoken in recent reports about setting the date for legal access discussion, possible action, and staff report. And I'm wondering whether that has been scheduled so that we have a date, and if it is not, could we make one now?
We don't have a firm date. If you want to do this on the 25th, that should give us time. If you want to move April 1st, in order to have a full staff analysis of the situation.
Well, I do believe that we had told people we'd be back to them in February some time ago, and now we're well into March.
March 25th.
Does the Community Development Director wish to weigh in on this?
Stephanie Moreno, Director of Community Development. We've had some recent communications with County Counsel's office and are trying to get some legal opinions about some of the solutions that have been proposed. We anticipate we won't have those answers until another week or two, so if you could schedule it after the 18th of March.
All right, 25th. 25th acceptable? All right, so for people listening in on the cable, it is now set for the 25th. The question of legal access will come back to the board for review and possible action. I also wanted to check and confirm that we have a date for the study session relating to economic development.
We had planned the 18th for that.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So that's on. 18th is on. All right. That completes my report.
Just Mr. Chairman,
yes, Russ.
Was that 18th? Is that the joint meeting that we've talked about with the City of Angels? Or
no, that's...
we have the chamber coming at some point, too.
The one I'm talking about is the chamber and the business council and people who are interested in that. That's on the 18th, and I believe, didn't we have the joint meeting on the 11th?
That's the 11th, yeah.
Yes. Okay, so both are happening, but not concurrent.
At the same time.
I have one more thing.
Yes, Marita.
I mentioned, I believe last week, about affordable housing. And it's a topic that just ebbs and flows throughout the county. And I really need to know where the board is on doing something about this. Community development is an integral part of it. There's sort of been committees on and off over the years that we've had on this topic. I know it's contentious. My feeling is it's got to be a heterogeneous committee. And is the board supportive of doing this again? Our housing element is back in, what, about a year and a half or 2 years, Stephanie?
Year.
And we need, I mean, I'd like to see us do something, even if it takes 2, 3, 4 years to put something together, but we have to stop talking about it and come up with some kind of protocol. I mean, we had 2 projects recently which were, you know, one gave 2 parcels, one gave 5, I think, the one in Bill's area.
Right. 5 homes, not just parcels.
Yeah, so, I mean, I just feel like we need to move on this. And we're talking about economic development, and everybody wants retail sales, and nobody's building apartments or income housing for people who make $8 to $12 an hour. And we're working on the general plan, and I just think it's time to do something.
You want an inclusionary statute?
I'm not saying, I think everything's on the table. I mean, it's like when I said Tuolumne is just doing, they're doing inclusionary. And if we do, we do. I mean, that will be the most controversial, I am sure, but I would like to see us formulate something and that board members pick people. I don't know, what's Stephanie's call on this? What do you think?
2 things. One is relative to the building of apartment houses. We just lost a use permit to build an apartment complex on Highway 49 outside of San Andreas. The developer gave up the use permit because he was unable to negotiate reasonable terms with Caltrans for the improvement at Old Airport Road, and the county was unable to assist in that effort. And I think that if we truly want apartment dwellings built in the county, that we need to assist the people that are willing to come forward in negotiating with outside agencies. So it's not that nobody wants to, it's that it's been made impossible to do so in some cases. Relative to the provision of affordable housing, I would suggest we're coming back to the board, hopefully early April, to do another general plan update, that this would be a good topic for discussion during that discussion on how we want to proceed with affordable housing. It is part of the general plan update. Although it is being postponed for update of the housing element until after we complete this portion, that does not mean we can't form a committee to work on pieces of that at this time. But I'd like it to be considered comprehensive with the general plan update, not outside of the process, if that's possible.
Are there any other board comments and feedback on this topic? I'll I'll lend my, well, Marita, do you want to
Well, I
continue?
mean, I
I'll-
hear
have
what
some comments.
Stephanie's saying. I don't know how to make that happen unless it's just straightforward driven. Because there is such diversity of opinion on what that is. I mean, forget that if you're in this income range, then you're very low, and this income, you're low or medium or high. I mean, I think that's fairly straightforward. But how does it happen? How do we get it on the ground? And
Well, we have to-
it's why I think the community, the diverse groups of the community need to be part of that.
I agree. I believe the county had a committee at one time that was
Yes.
represented diversity within the community.
Yes.
I have no opposition to having a committee talk about affordable housing issues. I just think that it's not an issue that's can be considered in a vacuum, because it has other considerations. For example, we had this discussion about R3 land within the county, that we continue to allow it to be built upon by single-family homes. That takes away the ability to put multifamily there. It's a larger issue that needs to be discussed, and we need to come up with firm implementation measures for providing affordable housing, and we need to have a planning commission and board that supports those when they come up on individual projects. So it is a large issue, and I think that if you give us a few weeks to bring it back with a general plan update, we can outline some courses of action for you to proceed right now on affordable housing issues that include a comprehensive committee.
I'd like to lend my 2 cents on this. It's an important issue in my district, and certainly we're having all kinds of experiences with the, I don't want to call it failure, but we have not taken the voluntary tools that we have and used them fully over the last number of years since we last passed or put our housing elements, our third iteration of our last housing elements into our general plan. The first 2 were found to be deficient. The question that I have right now, preparatory to the discussions that we will be having on this, is exactly what we have done to exercise the implementation measures that were listed in our existing housing element. What has been the effect of those, so that we know whether we've got elements, the part of it that would get something done. Have those tools worked or not? If they haven't, why? And what are the things that have been successful in other counties that have made things happen? I went, for instance, when we picked up the $1.6 million for our first-time home buyers, I went to a town that's Dinuba in the middle of nowhere in the Central Valley that had done spectacular work on building entire villages of owned and rented mixed places next to schools, in places where it was infrastructure, and those villages were tremendously successful. So there are places that are doing this with public and private partnerships in this particular case. There are also things that other counties have done. Contra Costa has said that they'd like to, and have passed a resolution urging their local banks and lending institutions to not jack up the interest rates right now, and they've taken that position and actually gone out to their banking and insurance, the industry that's currently in the news quite a bit, to try to get foreclosures put off just a little bit for a while. Another aspect of this that we don't talk enough about is the economic part of it. If people don't make a decent wage, if we don't have business, and the link between an economic plan and affordable housing, there's 2 ways to afford a house. One is keep the house price down, and the other is to make enough money to be able to afford one. Those 2 things can't be decoupled, and one of the problems that we've had in this county is the discussion has been so isolated and so narrow in its scope that we wind up failing most people who actually need our best thinking done now. There are a lot of families that are hurting big time. Another one just, I got a call just over the weekend. Family in Moke Hill. Family of 4, working parents, couldn't make their payment this month. What do? They ask. We don't have an answer. And that's only a piece of affordable housing, is keeping the house you got. It's rehabbing other places that are sitting idle. It is using more state and federal funds to be able to assist us and apply it directly to areas of need. It's working with local businesses and landowners. It's asking the people who have tried to build affordable housing and had us get in their way. We say we want 1,039 homes built over a 10-year period. We accomplished 20 in the first 6 years of that, and people are telling us that it's hard to get these things done in this county. I would suggest we have some serious work to do, and my hope is that this will be done quickly, that we'll bring it back to the board first with a report on how we're doing. We don't even know how many houses for the lower quintile or the two lower quintiles. How have we done with our 1,039? Where are we in that? I think we're at about 25 or 6. That's my guess. Some people suggest as few as 5 or 6. Habitat for Humanity has done the bulk of the work. So our measures may just not be right or appropriate or working in this area. Let's assess that and then move to study other areas and find out what is working out there. And let's do it in April.
I would like to suggest that because we are trying to work on other priorities that the board has given us, that we address the issues of where we're standing right now, and that we leave the where do we go from here to the committee that you establish, who hopefully will have time to make the field trips and do the other work that's needed to come up with proposals. I can provide some staff to that committee, but to redirect my general plan coordinator at this time to looking at all of the questions that you've just raised would redirect her from other activities.
Well, I find tremendous interest in industry and among the citizenry in getting something done here, so I wouldn't ask staff to do all the legwork. I think it's time to use the energies of this community in a way that gets a product out, and so let's
I would like to, the committee to be...
I think the board ought to
right.
establish such a committee, and we ought to make sure it's broad-based and reflects the full stakeholder range, and that we set that up as a result of the discussions that we would have when the report comes back.
We'll pull up the old committee list and we'll make recommendations for what kinds of membership that you, so you can see what happened last time, what kinds of membership you would like to go forward. One question I would have is whether you want it district-driven or if you want it community-based driven as far as representation. I would recommend it be community-based organizations, not just straight one or two people from each district, so that we get the full diversity that we're looking for.
It would be nice not to have to choose between geographic and interest representation.
We could come up with a proposal that melds both if you'd like, 5 public members.
Russ, you had a comment?
Well, I was just curious about the success story that you mentioned in Dinuba. How I think it would be very appropriate to find some particular project that works and learn from that rather than try to invent something special here. So.
I'm glad you asked, because I've got a whole folder on it, and I've been waiting for the venue to discuss it. So I think the people who are doing that actually have volunteered to come to this county to explain how they pulled the funding together. It was an amazing combination of private and public effort.
I also would just like to mention that this is a subject that although there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of progress that's been made recently, there's a lot of discussion. I know that one of the major developers down in Copperopolis has they're not into the building business per se of building of affordable housing, but they feel responsible and they want to contribute to that effort. And I've heard them say that they would fund some fully engineered architectural plans for a number of houses that could be pre-approved, that people that were interested in building a low-cost house could come and the plans would be available.
Yes, we actually asked them to consider the development of such plans as part of their mitigation on a project, in a way to be creative in our thinking about how to approach affordable housing in the county. It doesn't have to be deed restricted in order to be considered affordable.
It could be, this is all part of the discussion that we're going to have, but it also could be set up through the financial institutions in the county that they would know what these plans are, and somebody who we could have a press release that if you have a postage stamp piece of property and you want an affordable house, we can help you. And it need not be inclusionary.
Or subsidized?
Or subsidized.
I'm looking forward to this discussion. As usual, the board will have many different perspectives. You're saying April...
The target date is April 3rd. We have to get our visioning statement, issues, and opportunities report completed.
Let me suggest
ready.
that same day that after that report comes in, that we have a study session related to housing in general and our housing element in specific.
The 3rd is a Thursday, so in April. So
can't be the right date.
So we're looking at April 1st is a Tuesday, April 8th, 15th, and 22nd.
There you go.
I'm not feeling bold enough to hold this discussion on April Fool's Day, but could we do it on the 8th?
I would like to target that. It depends on getting the product that we need to bring back. So, yes, I will tentatively commit to that date, and I will notify the CIO's office within the next week if I feel it's feasible or not.
There's so great an interest in this that I think we need to do an affirmative kind of outreach to all the different stakeholders, which would include the lending institutions, would include probably real estate and building interest, as well as community and NGOs to come in and express themselves.
We have not had any trouble drawing a crowd to our general plan update, so I would imagine we would get them all
I'm
there.
talking about the housing part of
Yes.
this. We really need those folks in the room for this discussion.
You do.
All right.
Rita mentioned the recently approved map where a developer volunteered to build 5 affordable housing units. And one of the things that people know, but it doesn't always come out in the conversation, is that developers, lending institutions, builders, they are for-profit businesses. Those 5, that particular builder gave us a fairly accurate actuarial of what that was going to mean to his project. Those 5 units were going to cost him $1 million, not a loss in profit. They're going to cost him $1 million. So given that we are in an infrastructure deficit in this county and that we want to build these where there exists infrastructure, there's going to, what I'm trying to get around to saying, is going to have to be some concessions, if not, or maybe even subsidies between involving the county, perhaps the various water and sewer districts. If you want to build in San Andreas in the last 6 months, you've got to come up with anywhere, depending on the day, you have to come up with between $17,000 and $25,000 per EDU. If you want to cut, even if it's an infill project, it doesn't qualify for the statutory infill criteria, but if you've got a couple of acres inside town, it's on the district, and you need to cut down some oak trees, there adds more to it. All these things add money. What I'm trying to say is that maybe none of these mitigation measures are frivolous, but it's going to be more and more and more and more difficult to build what is called workforce or affordable housing when the cost of development and construction keep accelerating. And somewhere there's got to be some concessions, some incentives for these builders to do it. Builders are interested in pounding nails and constructing something and making a profit, paying their people a decent wage, and perhaps a wage that those people can afford to live in the product that they're building. But you cannot have it both ways. And if the cost of doing business keeps accelerating at the rate it is, it's going to be very difficult to construct affordable or workforce housing. So that's got to be part of this discussion.
And that again points out how broad this problem really is. San Andreas, there are no sewer hookups at this time. We have lots of people that would like to build here. They can't get past the part of getting the sewer up and running so that they can do that. We've crafted ways so that we can start approving projects, but nothing's going to be built until that problem's fixed. And if the board wants to be proactive and progressive on affordable housing, they may need to be proactive and progressive on helping solve some of the infrastructure problems and coming up with some partnerships instead of letting these districts struggle on their own to provide solutions. So it is a very broad issue that can't be just solved in one study session, I don't think.
All right. Well, we'll let that be the last word. I want to thank Supervisor Callaway for raising the topic. It's an important one to many people. We're still, by the way, on correspondence and items of interest. That was certainly one. Does our CAO have any items of interest or correspondence he wishes to relate?
Supervisor Callaway actually got to the ones I was going to discuss, which is the MHSA or the Prop 63 Community Forum in Avery and the Art Spirit exhibit on Saturday from 1 to 3 at the Arts Council Gallery in San Andreas. I had the good fortune to attend the Community Forum on Prevention and Early Intervention at West Point last week, where the chair was, and was impressed not only with the community involvement and engagement and commitment to the success of this process, but also the quality of the presentations by behavioral health staff and folks from the county who facilitated this engagement. I'm looking forward to seeing their work again in Avery. It's an important process. We're changing the paradigm for mental health services here in the county and in California, and I encourage folks to participate. Come on down to the middle school in Avery from 6 to 8 on Thursday, the 6th.
That was a real accurate observation on staff. They were efficient, they were friendly, they were communicative, they did not dominate the process, they elicited tremendous participation and response, and that was really our staff at its finest. And if they're out there listening, I want to thank them as well.
That's it.
Jim?
Nothing.
Madeline? Okay, that completes our board agenda on the open session. We will now move to our 3 closed sessions, and I want to remind people that there will be a scintillating discussion of the state and local fire safety regulations pertaining to emergency vehicle access this afternoon at 1:30. That's the famous or infamous driveway dispute. And if any of you are interested in policy or safety relating to that, I would suggest you be there in this room at 1:30 this afternoon. And thank you for attending.